Hello and welcome to This Day with BJ Arnett. I am excited to talk about this subject. It's all about you, Papa, all about you, Dad. And our guest today is Jeff Steiner, who is going to give us a walkthrough of why it is important to lift up our men in our family who are dads, and what it's like to feel that moment of being separated from your children, separated in a way that you have no control. Jeff Steiner, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for being a light in this particular dark arena, because it's really bigger than most people think. When a father is separated from the household, separated from his children, why is this so important to you?
First off, thank you for having me, BJ. The Dad's Resource Center was founded by Dr. Joel N. Myers, who is the founder and CEO of AccuWeather. Now, he went through some things himself, and it took a lot for him to get things to where they needed to be. He decided that there needed to be something there for fathers because they face such an uphill battle. So he created the Dad's Resource Center. Now, the question is, what is the impact when fathers are not in the lives of their children? We've done significant research into that. And what we have found is the children who do not have their father in their home when they grow up, just on a broad spectrum of ways, are disadvantaged. They tend to smoke more than other children. They engage in hard drug use more than other children. They have sex before the age of 19, much more than other children. They're 71% more likely to have been convicted of a crime. Conversely, as citizens, they're much less likely to donate to charity, much less likely to volunteer their time to the community or vote. Those affirmative kind of things. They're less likely to graduate from high school, 33% less likely to graduate from college, and when they grow up, make 26% less than children who grow up with a father in their home. So that's a difference between $44,000 a year and $59,000 a year. And that's a difference being able to raise your children in a way that you can raise them up also. They're 94% more likely to use SNAP and WIC and other social service programs like that. We estimate, based on those different kind of expenses, that the taxpayer cost, the children not having the fathers in their lives when they're growing up, is over $250 billion a year. So there's just a significant impact to children individually when they don't have their father in their life, and to society as a whole.
You know, what is amazing to me is the dichotomy of this insanity is that our American court system, when a divorce occurs, the father is immediately considered an enemy and have seemingly less rights than anyone, and they are essential to the rearing and emotional and physical stability of that child, more important than the woman. And the woman's job is giving the birth. But the dad's job is the training and being the example, which is part of the training of that child. So we are ripping out from our very society the thing that is most important to having a strong society. All of those things that you mentioned are totally affected by the dad not being in the home.
Okay, so BJ, do you want a job with the Dad's Resource Center?
I'm passionate about this. I've seen what this does to a family and what this does to children, and especially our young men in this nation. They need their papas.
Absolutely. I've said it a million times. Mothers and fathers give different but equally important things to their children.
Yes.
And when children don't have either of those parents in their lives growing up, they have an incomplete childhood, and they're not best prepared to be successful in life. And I also say the best thing you can do for mothers is to be an engaged father, or to salute fatherhood, because it's a two-person job, BJ.
It
Literally,
is.
if your kids sleep 8 hours a day, that's 2 8-hour shifts you got to do during the course of the day to raise your children, right?
That's
So,
exact.
but to your point, the systems that are intended to safeguard and protect children hurt them when they cut fathers out of the lives of their children. And we see that pervasively and consistently. We did research into custody cases in some counties in Pennsylvania and found that when judges determine contested custody between two parents who want custody of their children, fathers get less than a third of that time, mothers get 2/3 of that time. And in only 100 out of 700 cases we looked at, did they get shared custody. The
Wow.
mother gets primary or full custody 500 of those 700 cases. So you have that bias just within the family court system itself.
So how do you raise a young man to be a man and you're a woman? We do it every day. I was a single mom of a son, and I really, really, really thought to myself, Lord, I need to be in a right track where you have placed me with the true husband and father I'm supposed to be with. And he did exactly that. And then that young son began to have an image in front of him that gave him an understanding of what a man does, moves, and has, what his commitment is to receiving from God himself. It is so important. It's so important. But then young women need their connection with their father in order to know how to be a young woman. You don't get all of it from your mom. You get the understanding of how you are to be treated from your father. So when we separate him from the experiences with our children, we have devastation. And I love how you put it earlier. When you speak of what is happening in our nation, we can point directly back to what is happening in our separated homes.
Absolutely. And as we know, over a third of family marriages end up in divorce, and a significant portion of our children today are growing up in separated families. And that's, even under normal circumstances, being a parent is a tough job. But when you do a separated family, you don't need the outside systems, because people become reliant on the courts. And sometimes parents take advantage of the courts and systems like protection from abuse orders, which are routinely gained in order to cut the other parent out of the life of their child and take advantage of them that way. And there are other people involved in the system, like guardian ad litems. Now, this isn't to say that they're biased out of the gates, but up to 80% of the workers in the human services field are women. And when you're dealing in a situation like that, men get lost in the shuffle. Their voice gets lost and they get overlooked. And so this is our focus with the Dad's Resource Center. There's some fathers out there who aren't engaged like they should of their own volition. But what we're doing is we're working for and fighting for those fathers who so desperately want to be in the lives of their children. And like you said, it's as broken heart. Like, these men are broken because there's nothing they can do. They're fighting against all these odds, and all they want to do is be in their children's lives, and they can't. And it's disheartening. And at the end of the day, the children are the ones who lose
suffer
in that whole process.
Exactly right. So what can we do? Your everyday neighbor, your church member. This is happening within the church in record number. Where it should not be happening, it is. We can hide from that reality, or we can face that reality and make it a not reality by putting action steps together. Talk to us about what are the action steps that the church can get involved with, that our community can see the church involvement, so that we have a resolve to this, because it's insane.
Well, one of the big things for men is we have a hard time asking for help, right? We go it alone, we tough it out. And the first thing we need to do is get fathers who are in these situations to talk to people, to engage in people and ask for help. Because our nature is we just want to go it alone. And you can't beat the system all on your own, right? So being there for them, supporting them, helping them when they do have their opportunities to have their children, give them the resources and the people to support them when they do have their time, to make the most of their time. But when they're caught up in the court system in particular, show up at court with them. Because one of the things that I have found, I go to court with some of my fathers, and judges act a little bit different when there's some different people in the room. Like, if you just have a father and then the mom and all those people who are helping mom and all that, it's easy to kind of just track the way things go. But if you got people in there supporting a father, judges know who are in that room, and they pay
Yeah.
attention to that. So help fight for them. Write letters to people for them. Say, hey, I'm observing this situation. Like, become involved and engage with it, because it's such a big fight. Fathers become disoriented. They don't know what to do. You got to help boost them up, but then join the fight with them, because the system, it's hard to break. It's hard to make a difference. But when you have other people fighting for a father, sometimes that can make a difference.
That is extraordinary to me, because you bring up such a good point. When you are in those courtrooms, it's usually the mom has her mother, the grandparent, and a girlfriend, and there's a slew of people on her side, if you will, and then there's the father alone and looking as if he doesn't know what is really going on. Because I believe, now this is a belief as a woman, that the man is saying they couldn't possibly pull my child totally away from me. There's this disbelief, even though the numbers are broad, of how it happens. But there's a disbelief in that father. So if we just show up to support that father, not supporting the mother, but there's an equal system that has to happen there. What are some of the things in terms of our government, in terms of our community, that we can do to help shift this situation?
Well, that's the big bite at the Big Apple, and we're doing that at the Dad's Resource Center here in Pennsylvania. We're part of a group that we're looking to try to pass legislation to create a fatherhood commission at the state level, embedded within the state legislature, to be able to look at all the different parts of the system and how they're doing in terms of ensuring that fathers are engaged. I'm in some groups at the state level, and I know engagement with fathers is well below what it is for mothers. Now, it could be better for mothers too. I always tell people that it isn't even good enough for them, but it's a lot lower for fathers. So become involved in shared parenting groups that work constructively. You got to be careful about the fathers' rights movements. It's negativity. People will turn them off. But constructively work in a positive way, in an assertive way on behalf of fathers, to be able to look at things for shared parenting, fatherhood commissions, and those types of things at the state level, to get the processes in place, because you have to change the system from within the system.
Yes.
And that's a tough thing to do. It's a lot of work. You got to have people who are committed and know what they're doing with it. But ultimately, system change is what we're hoping to help create with the Dad's Resource Center too.
The Dad's Resource Center is in Pennsylvania. Are there other organizations that you connect with around the nation that would also be ones that we should connect with as well?
There's an organization called the National Parents Organization. That's a national group, and they focus on shared parenting. That's their specialty. Then there are a bunch of state level organizations. There's one group up in Wisconsin for families and fathers. That's a group that's very similar to us. They're trying to help in totality with fathers, not just focusing on one or two issues. And then there are a lot of good fatherhood programs, the National Fatherhood Initiative, and those types of things that are more focused on fatherhood in general. And of course, we're all brothers in arms in terms of the cause of fatherhood. But there aren't enough organizations like us who are fighting specifically in an effective way on behalf of those fathers who are getting cut out unnecessarily and pervasively by the court systems and all the other systems.
We've got to put a stop to it, and it takes us together putting a stop to the unbalance and bringing the balance of bringing dad connected with his children. The Dad's Resource Center has some answers for you. God bless you, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, BJ. And again, the offer stands with the Dad's Resource Center.